uh, across into Canada once
Yeah.
and realized I was just in Georgia.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that profound. We were on like one of our epic road trips, and we're going to Vancouver. So we drove from Florida all through the US and ended up on Vancouver Island and took the ferry through the San Juan Strait or whatever it is, and ended up at Sydney or whatever it was in on Vancouver Island. And we drive in, and they have us pull over, and they check the car. It's customs, and you think, oh, this is Canada. It's just like a big state of America, right? And you're like, no, we're a country, and they're very nice. And they're like, pull over, and they're asking you a bunch of questions. That's fine, and they're just inspecting the car. And the one Mountie said, "Do you have bear spray or do you have pepper spray?" And I said, "Yeah, I have pepper spray." He said, "Get out of the car." And I was like, "What?" So I get out of the car, and they literally open our car, and they empty everything. They empty all of my clothes. They overturn the chairs. They pull it all out. And bro is lecturing me and goes, "You know that's considered a concealed weapon in Canada." I said, "Come on, no." He said, and he deadpan serious. He's like, "This isn't America, bro." And he's like, we have our own laws up here. And like apparently some Texan pew pew, like, here's my guns. But like apparently it's a serious deal that pepper spray that's on a keychain is bad. And he said it would have been better if you would have had bear spray. Now I think he's making jokes. And I'm like, yeah, right. And he's like, "You don't think I'm serious?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Having bear spray like this isn't considered concealed weapon. Get it right." And I was like, oh my God, like what is wrong with these? I thought these people were supposed to be nice. And so we had to repack the entire car, but everyone else in Canada was great. But it was like a bizarro experience that I've never experienced. But everyone's got their laws. You got to respect it. And I didn't. Welcome to Not Crypto Bros. We're
I thought the
live.
story was gonna be that. Oh, what's up, Tristan? I thought the story was gonna be that they went through your entire car, and then finally you said, "Oh no, here's my ledger," and you had it in your hand on your keys because you keep it always on your keys.
It's like it's right here. It's just floating around. And
Oh
and
my
then
God.
just in case, like my seed phrase is in my Google Keep, just in case I can't find it anywhere, and it's just like a big photo of my seed phrase. Just so everyone
You're not
knows.
supposed to do that. That's the whole point. You're not supposed to ever put it into anything digital and put it on the internet, Grant.
Yeah, Google's AI could probably crawl all of its data and find like seed phrase, like it's written really big in capital letters. Here's my seed phrase.
Okay, everyone listening, do not do what Grant does ever. Do not walk around, go to the club with your ledger.
Advice.
Don't upload your seed phrase to Google Drive and think it's chill.
No. So shout out to Tristan in the comments. Tristan and I finally ended up on a phone call last week. He's a totally cool guy. I was going to say young man. He's a totally cool guy. I mean, he is young, but he's murdering it. He's doing fantastic. He's got some VC deals, not to impress anyone, but to impress upon him that you can be young and killing it. And this guy's doing it. He found his own niche skill as a sales consultant. He's helping, I think, George Pate, if I'm not mistaken, with Li-Fi, try to do some marketing out there and try to do some fundraising for that. So cool guy. Shout out to Tristan, man. So how are we doing on a Tuesday, boys?
Jay, how you doing?
It's okay for Tuesday. I feel like I live for the weekends nowadays.
You live for the freaking weekend.
Yeah.
So Jay, how was your weekend then?
Yeah.
Quiet. It was quiet. Yeah. Usually I just like sleep as much as I can
Roger
on
Williams with
Saturday.
Wi-Fi, not George Pate. Yeah.
My apologies, Roger Williams, not George Pate. So Jay, you sleep on the weekend. So are you turning into an old fart, Jay? You don't go out?
So it feels like it.
Yeah.
It feels like it. Feels like I'm an old man. But I feel like some of that is like the post-lockdown just effects of not feeling the need to go out or do anything, just hang out at home.
I got DoorDash. I'm peopled out. Did you see this article, boys, from Mark Benioff, if I'm saying his name right, from Salesforce? And he was talking about how Gen Z, he said, listen, we've done a lot of research into like the new generation coming into work. And there's been productivity issues, and we know that generationalism is a big thing in the workplace. But he said the paradox I'm dealing with is there's a lot of people who are entering the workforce for the first time post-COVID in droves. They've never worked for anyone else, and they're reaching out to HR, and they're going, no, I want to work remote, but I feel disconnected from my coworkers. I don't feel like I understand my place in this ecosystem. What do I do? And it's like, you can't have it both ways, Junior. Like, I mean, it's like, I don't know how to help you, man. So there's this, they haven't solved for this. So it's been kind of challenging. And then HP threw in a survey of 10,000 office workers or 10,000 like white collar workers. And the survey comes back and says Gen Z is 10 times more likely to not know how to run their laptop than the seniors that they spend hours. Because like, the story of like, oh, this young generation is going to help me figure out my social media, and they're on the phone helping them figure it. But it's now been limited to social media and social media platforms. But they grew up with super convenient computers. Like, Apple is Apple products
the Chromebooks.
The Chromebooks, you turn it on and it just works.
If like I heard about this too in colleges, like college professors are saying that when they get new computer science students, they don't even know how to like find stuff in folders.
That's right. They don't know how to search folders.
Yeah, because they've grown up with Chromebooks. You get Chromebooks in high school, so
and you just do a search.
The Windows Drive system like that's alien to them.
Well, yeah, and so whether it's Google Chrome or whether it's Apple products, these are so user-friendly, which is their selling point. This is so user-friendly, which is their selling point, that they don't know, like, hey, change those settings, change the display settings, change your sound settings, make that network connection, connect to the Wi-Fi, and they're like, what are you even talking about? Like, I grew up with a PC, and they were a bit more difficult to get started in, but I actually knew how the thing worked, And so I say that to say, like, there's a coming, you mentioned the post-COVID malaise, and I guess you triggered me, where there's this idea of, man, I feel for this generation coming in because they're already dealing with like paranoia and feeling, what is it, imposter syndrome? And then also feeling like the new kid on the block, and also not knowing where they stand when it comes to things like, do I have value to add now with Chat GPT? Do I have any value to add? Yeah. But on top of all of that, like, they're digital natives now. We've gone from digital natives to remote work natives, and they're like, I want to be in an office somewhere with people. And the company's like, we sold our offices. Like, so what are you talking about? So that's tough, man. But I feel you. So how are you going to come out of your post-COVID? Not that you were necessarily sick for 2.5 years, but how are you going to, is there a craving? Let me ask this. Is there a craving to resolve that, to be more social?
I think there is. And I think probably what I end up doing is just doing something drastic, like moving or something, and just being in a place where you sort of have to start over and try to meet new people and go out and figure out where the local grocery store is and have conversations and that type of stuff. So maybe it's something like that. Hope maybe it doesn't need to be that drastic, but it's something massive that just moves the chain. But you mentioned something and it made me think of this Chat GPT. Is that Chat GPT?
Yep.
That is so amazing, right?
You started playing with it?
I haven't played. I've been just like looking at other people play with it,
bro.
And see what they can do. We'll see what they're doing. It's so amazing. Yeah, when I was in Halifax, this was one of the things that I used to talk to my boss about all the time. That like, we're training all of these people to be computer savvy and computer literate.
Yeah,
and eventually we won't have a need for any of them because we're gonna get our algorithms to the point. There's going to be like low code, no code. I know there's Chat GPT and GPT-3 and all of these other algorithms that do the work for us. That essentially replace people. One of my big things that I was trying to convince the colleges to pay attention to is that the generation of nurses that we're training right now are literally the final generation of human nurses.
I don't think so. When we had this conversation a few episodes back,
yeah, okay.
yeah, I don't know if I buy it. I mean, I want you to complete your thought, but I thought about it since we talked about it last. And I was like, and I'll have a reason why, but go ahead, especially since I've been messing with ChatGPT.
Well, okay, well, so I'll give you just a bit of food for thought to think about. So, the first time that someone was able to like buy a commercial airline ticket was in the 1920s. And then by the 1960s, we were landing on the moon. So from the first flights to space travel took 40 years. What I'm saying is the people who are being like, if you become a nurse today, your career is probably 40 years old, 40 years long. I'm saying at the end of that 40 years, there won't be a need to train another nurse to then do another 40 years because we're actually already building robot nurses today.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There are these really cool robot nurses that have like these child-friendly robotic faces that can pick patients up and put them on their bed and take their temperature and stuff like that. And they're never sick. They're never wrong. You know, they don't make mistakes and that type of stuff. And then, post-pandemic, having gone through all of that, all of those healthcare issues with nurses getting sick and, not showing up to work and being afraid of the virus and all of that stuff, what hospital isn't trying to figure out, how do I get rid of this human capital and automate as much of these processes as possible so that doesn't happen to me again?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in general, and I know this isn't on crypto, so we should turn it there shortly. But I think that technology is an important component of us talking about crypto, because like it affects so much of it. But my pushback is when I see ChatGPT, we've already literally integrated it into our website company services, and it's code complete. I can ask it to write code. My next experiment is, can I have it write a WordPress plugin code complete for me? And I'd like to see if it could do that, even a basic hello world kind of function from a code perspective. But what I started thinking about this from website design, and I think that this is true of a lot of things, and that is of a lot of things that AI could replace. This soft touch is becoming more valuable. My prediction is that in 40 years, the mechanical functions of nursing that you describe, from diagnosing to turning a patient, those sort of mechanical things will just be unnecessary. But humans, no matter what, our radar adapts to that quickly. We've known this from a lot of things, and I think we will value more and more things like I would generalize as bedside manner.
Yes.
Human function. So you're right about diagnosis. I think you're right about all that, but we'll be trained. It'll be nursing, but it'll be different.
It'll be different. It'll be
stuff like that. And I think that like, we're going to see this with like crypto. Like if we could turn the conversation to crypto on some of this, like it's going to be so easy to use these tools to fire up the next Shido token, right? And to fire up the next use case. But I think as humans, just like we did in the DAO world, like when we watched DAO's balloon, at first we were like, this is the coolest effing thing ever. Everything's a DAO. I'm going to make a DAO for them to vote on which t-shirt.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This DAO's going to buy the Constitution. This DAO's going to start a soccer team,
yes.
And we touch it so fast. And I call it calibrating our bullshit meter.
Yeah.
We calibrated. With every new technological wave, the pace of calibrating our bullshit meter gets more and more refined. So we cycle through new technologies and new innovations quicker. And what we come out on the other end is, I think, a very strong intuition. Like, I don't think this Wonderland bullshit's going to make it. And it's like we know that, And so now, here's an example. In my phone right now is the third pitch for an MLM this week.
What is it? Like, tell me more about it. I'm fascinated by MLMs.
Well, I mean, and you and I talked about this. I love MLMs, but the downside to MLMs is they do the worst sales training. It's great for, as a young 20-something, to cut your teeth on sales training from an MLM. And I think every young 20-something should be involved in something like that. Maybe not directly in MLM, but something like that. My man, Victor. Hey, Victor, Drop in the comments what you're looking at this Tuesday, and we're gonna shill it for you.
Nice.
But this one is Amway, and Amway has been around for a long time, and everyone's like, hey, I've got this new business. No, it's not Amway. It's this, I think for a long time it was Quantum or something. They changed the name of it to something else, and now it's back to being Amway. But the sales training is horrible. This person's like, hey, you want to connect and exchange websites and talk about what we do? I said, sure. So I sent him my website. So
that's just so
and don't get me wrong, Amway has made people money, and MLM has made some people some serious money. And I learned how to sell from MLMs. I really did. I dead serious. But as a 40-year-old now, it's such a put off for someone to go, hey, get into my thing. And today, one of the invites, let's exchange information. I said, great, let's talk. And he just sent me his link, and it was like, I won't tell his name, but it was like stevo.amway.com. I'm like, what the? There was no personal touch. And he said, well, okay. Do you want to get on a Zoom call maybe? I was like, okay, let's talk face to face. The Zoom call was a cattle call for them selling and going, hey, here's some product. By the way, would you like to learn an extra $200 to $400 a month? Just sharing great products with other people. And the guy wasn't even there.
Yeah.
And so it's so depersonalized because they're so petrified from sales, and they're convinced that there's shortcuts and hacks to selling. And this is and Jarrett, you ask about, you're curious about MLM. This is MLM standard playbook. Standard playbook. A bunch of non-extroverts not interested in learning how to sell really are shilling stuff they don't believe in, and they're doing everything to avoid the gritty work of sitting elbow. They call it in sales, we call it elbow to elbow. And in Zoom, it would be different, but sitting elbow to someone and having to listen and navigate their objections. And they're just avoiding it at all costs. If I can get you on a cattle call and I have a group, oh, here we go. Oh, Tristan, bro. And I have good friends in Primerica. And Primerica is the insurance one. You guys seen Primerica?
No.
I'm glad I haven't seen it.
They have insurance and they have financial products. I actually have a key person insurance for one of my businesses with Primerica because I just have a really good buddy in it, and the rates were good. I'm about to switch up on the products, but the exception, these are exceptions that prove the rule. These individuals are exceptions that prove the rule when it comes to MLM sales. Let's actually turn that question a little bit. Do you guys believe that you have actually learned how to sell?
No.
That's interesting. So. I would have thought Jarrett would have said absolutely yes, and Jay, you would have probably said, "Well, I invest in myself," and somewhere in there, somewhere.
Jay sells himself every day on investing in himself.
No, you're probably right about. I feel like if I needed to sell something, like I've done the research that I could put together a pretty good sales pitch, but. If you say, Jay, sell me this thing right now, probably.
Sell me this pen.
Yeah, exactly. Sell me this. Yeah, the Jordan Belfort. No, I haven't. But I think that let's segue into crypto and stuff like that, because otherwise people are going to see. David Patrick says, I invest in Mint Oreos.
David, you don't have to sell me hard. David's buddy from Lakeland. David, you don't have to sell me hard on Mint Oreos. Now, David's a technologist, and I recommend both of you boys. Friend him on LinkedIn or Facebook. This guy is in high tech, and we've had great tech conversations over the years. He's a real good guy. But yeah, you sell me this Oreo. You don't have to sell me at all. Just wave the Oreo in my direction, and that is a product that sells itself. There are not many. Now, here's a great one, Tristan, influenced by Robert Cialdini and story selling, 2 best starting points for learning how to sell. But segue, Jarrett, you were going to segue us to crypto. Talk to me.
Yeah, I was just going to segue that I don't think that good products need salespeople. And I think Apple has totally proven that. When you go into the Apple store, no one's ever going to ask you to buy anything. They're just there if you have questions. They're literally told not to sell people things,
I disagree 100%.
So when I get into crypto and NFTs, when someone has to try to sell me on something and tell me about how great it is, and I can't look at it and be like, there's no salespeople for Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like, there's no CEO for it. So it's just kind of like, do you want to invest or do you not? And that's how I feel about Apple. And so when I think about sales, I really think about it's something that either there's an imbalance in information between the seller and the vendor. And what I mean is that the vendor probably doesn't even know how good the thing could potentially be. So then the salesperson is there to add the color, add the flavor, to bring the person all the way home. Yeah. But sometimes I feel like with some products, there's actually not that. I don't know. I'm a super minimalist, so I don't really buy anything unless it's gonna, or utilitarian, unless it's gonna give me utility. I don't buy things because of FOMO. I don't buy the new Gucci watch because it's cool. I don't have anything that I don't need. So I don't know. I feel fairly impervious to sales. But then again, I live in a capitalist society where, you know, the clothes I wear are some level influenced by market moves and stuff like that. So anyways, my point being that I think when you look at crypto, and we look at adoption and we look at the ones that are going to last, they're the ones that don't need salespeople. They're the ones that offer something so good that people are going to find them. And so, yeah.
So just so everyone knows, with zero pivot in the conversation, Victor, DGen news. Shido chart looks good. Hey, this is the real DGen news. I want to know. Tell me about your flash loan millions, bro. Bring it. I want to hear.
I looked into that, and that just looked like a bunch of. It looked reminiscent. It gave me PTSD to Wonderland. So I was like, I'm good on this.
If I might respond and then shape this into a question, and I believe.
What is Gong?
I'm not sure about Gong.
I don't know what Gong
David, well, we'll look Gong up, David, and I appreciate this. And David's riffing with Jarrett a little bit and taking this further. I do believe customer value and trust drive adoption, but I would say this, Jarrett, the examples you gave are technological revolutions that are undeniable. And keep in mind, people rejected it and still reject it to this day, and it takes maxis like you are selling and having to sell Bitcoin every day. It is not self-evident. And it was self-evident to you in a revelational moment. But the reason I disagree with Apple is this. Apple does not need sales, not because its products are so good. It does not need sales because its marketing is so good. You have been pre-sold. Sure. And this is powerful marketing. I think the products are good, but I question how much the placebo of the marketing makes me love the product and value what's going on. And so when I walk in the store, no one has to sell. You're right, because you are so pre-sold from the moment you walked in that door. Go ahead, Jay. You see like you got something.
I was also going to say that they do sell the products. It's just that they outsource the sales of it. It gets outsourced to the telecom companies. If you walk into a Verizon store and you try to buy
That's very true. That's very true. It gets outsourced because those people will hustle you. Those people will have you walking out with 3 iPhone 14s.
Exactly.
And you're like, I don't even know. I got 2 just in case my first, I got to get my, because I lose my
You're
first
right.
2.
Because my Verizon sales rep, Marissa knows I hate going to the Verizon store because they're
because they got I got one in my bathroom. I got one in the shower. I got one in my car in case I end up in a ditch.
And you need this Google Mesh network in your house because the Wi-Fi is not too strong. It's like, oh shit, you're right. That is too funny.
Anyways,
I don't want to dismiss your point about like truly revolutionary technology. I would agree with you from this regard. The amount of sales for a true 0 to 1 innovation like Bitcoin or a blockchain is far less than the lift of other product. It's a spectrum, right? And I'd say like things like Bitcoin, which are obvious, are like, wow, this is nuts. And those who get it. And it's just going to take a while to get there. Maybe Apple is like a little in between there on the spectrum where I'll tell you, the only Apple product that I think did sell itself was the original iPod Nano. The original that clipped. There was no screen.
I still have one.
Do you? I'm jealous. This was the best device I have ever used.
The one with the circle, the thing?
The circle?
No, I have one. Hold up. Let me find it.
The one I'm talking about is what Jay's talking about. It's square. It clips on. And
I did the little one. The tiny
little one. That's
little
right.
One, yeah.
That did sell itself. Hands down. That's it.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
I cannot believe you have that. I'm jealous.
So I've had this, and this one you can even see if you can see the eyelets dented, but I can still get the headphone jack in.
Yeah.
But
best device ever.
I actually have another one, and I saw it on Facebook Marketplace for $5 a couple of years ago, and I just bought it. I said, "Does that charge? Do you have the connector?" And the guy said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, they don't make these anymore." And when you're gonna go on a run for wherever, there's nothing better, especially if you're in a city or if you're in a place where you don't want to get robbed. And I've spent time in places where, I run through neighborhoods that, I wouldn't want to be carrying an iPhone through. And no, like take that. No one wants it. It's so low tech. People don't even want it. So, and the battery life is good. It's super light and you don't have to like figure out, you're not carrying anything in your hands. But so, okay, we got Gong equals customer. David says Gong equals customer insights and conversational intelligence used by B2B sales teams for coaching. I'm going to cry now. 4 years has passed versus Corp. The same was true early with Apple. Those with disposable income were early adopters. Those early adopters sold the masses. The same will be true of cryptocurrency as returns and value play. I think he's right. I mean, I guess here's my thing. This is interesting, and we should spend 5 more minutes, and then we'll spend the last half an hour if you're listening and you're dying to hear what the actual episode's about, and we're not talking about.
That's okay,
but it is okay, and I think, but I guess I just kind of like what are for Grant for you pushing like. My thing was that you don't need salespeople. I think you're totally right with marketing, but the conversation wasn't marketing; it was sales. So you want to throw in marketing, fine, but like, where do you need sales? Like, where in society does a salesperson add tremendous value?
You raise a great point, and I think I would augment the vehemence of my response from earlier, bouncing against David's comment, put together with your comment. You're right. We, Apple doesn't need salespeople. Yeah, because of marketers or these co-opted salespeople called early adopters. You're in us right now. We're selling people on this iPod Nano. We're selling them. If they heard this and they heard us rave about it, it's like someone looking at a 5-star review.
I want one now.
Exactly. I mean, exactly.
It's so good.
And so we're selling. And so this is the point people make when they say, you don't need sales, you just need a great product. And my response is could we just add nuance for the young people in the room? Someone needs to sell this. Whether it's the Verizon rep selling my iPod phone, whether it's Steve Jobs and he's the only salesman from the entire company when he goes, one more thing. That is just, it gives me chills when I think about that from Steve Jobs. He's the only salesman in the entire company, but someone has to sell. There's some component. So I would say in today's market, though, you would really love this, Jarrett. I'm taking a master class from, the sales guy. I forget his name. I'll think of it and post it later. But I'm taking a sales class, and he makes this point you just made. Up until recently, sales has largely been arbitrage between the salesman and the buyer.
Over he said the information about the product.
He said that is not the case anymore.
Yeah.
He said now the job of the salesperson is not to, in a strategic, artistic, timely way, release data to the buyer. He said the job of the sales rep is to affirm whether or not affirm them that it is, to affirm them whether or not it is a good buying decision by actually solving and extracting the problem they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And assuming they've done the homework. Go ahead, Jarrett. Or Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, to piggyback on what you were saying, yeah, I think, Jarrett, you asked earlier, where salespeople effective right now. I think it would be in like something that's high ticket or a place where an industry that's a little saturated, because then you need that salesperson to affirm that you are making the right decision.
Yeah. Or to redirect. Go ahead, Jarrett.
Yeah, or to redirect. I was listening to Alex Hormozy talk about this, and then Tristan, I'm going to get to your comment as well as David's. And he was just saying, he was basically saying how he became a salesperson and how that changed everything. And I do think back to Naval Ravikant. He's like, you either build or you sell. And if you can do both, you're unstoppable. And the best example is Steve Jobs. Mm-hmm. So, but he was saying the other day that a lot of salespeople now, because there isn't this, in the 1960s, when you walked in to buy your Maytag refrigerator in the United States, you knew nothing about the specs on this refrigerator. There wasn't the internet. You maybe had to get like a Maytag lookbook, but even that was only given to the distributors or the wholesalers. So you had all the information and you could blow them away with it, and then you could come up because you're probably doing financing in-house. So then you could fight the guy across the street because you basically had the ability to give this person a better rate, whatever it was, whatever. But now with the internet, it's kind of like my buddy who I grew up with and we went to high school together, or we went to high school together, and he's back teaching at our high school. He always has been since he graduated college. And he told us, he's like, oh, it's horrible. These kids just pull out their smartphones. And I'll be like, oh, this happened in this year. And they're like, really? Really, Profe? You think so? And then they look, they're like, actually, it's a year off. And he's just like, what am I really teaching at that point when they have all of the answers in their phone? And I feel the same way, I guess, just about sales. I do think high ticket matters. And I think that this is an interesting one. And this is going to irk anyone who's in real estate. But I think real estate agents are dead. They've been dead for a while. I think Redfin is absolutely destroying them. And I think the new age, they're just not really going to care to have someone come hold their hand to do it. There's going to be, and after what we saw with this past run on real estate, at least in the United States, where people were waiving inspection, people didn't care. People just didn't care. They didn't need all these, like, they didn't need warm cookies when they came to the open house. They just wanted a place. That's it. So I do think that, like, moving forward, like anyone who's in a job now, and I think about my own, security moving forward with what I could add value to the world. But it's like, if you think you're irreplaceable or your industry is irreplaceable, you're in trouble. That's like my new, whenever you think you're irreplaceable is when you're about to be replaced. That's just how, like, hubris works over a long enough period of time. But I'm going to shout out Tristan's and David's comments and then pass it back to you guys. It says the transference of certainty to validate the prospect's own thinking. Jordan Belfort. Love that. Information broker, pain elimination, disqualifier of fit. Exactly.
Yeah. Disqualifier fit, because you earn trust. We call that a trust agent move. When you listen to someone, you go, and I've even done this with David. He and I got on a call once for one of his data analytics services. Like his targeting that he can do for advertisement and geo is nuts. It's like next generation. Yeah. And very quickly on the call, it was like, listen, I'm a small potato and I cannot cut the check that you're talking about. And I don't even have, like, the supply chain to deliver the volume of clients. And so I got disqualified right away. And then real quick, I just put the notes there. It's Daniel Pink's lesson on sales and persuasion. And it's not just about persuading someone to do what you want. It's persuading someone, like David is saying, they might not need to do it. And you need to persuade them to not do it because it's not in their best interest. Which is, someone came to me this morning at the gym at 5 a.m. Hey, you do that website stuff. I want you to handle my marketing. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And I said, no, we do not do marketing. And I said, let's talk, and I can point you the right direction. That's my euphemism for disqualifying them. For sure. Like, let me point you the right direction there. Where are we at here? Binance buys buys Voyager. The crypto audits are stopping left and right. And MetaMask is partnering with PayPal. Where do you guys want to start?
So I want to start with the Binance US.
I feel like this is all new to me. Like, I missed all of these.
You're under a freaking rock. Well, I did.
You signed up to come on this show. Come on, buddy.
Well, 1 year. One year happens in a week in crypto. So go ahead with Binance. What's your question?
So I looked up more of the MetaMask PayPal deal as well as the Visa and Ethereum, and I was reading some articles on that. Yeah, I love this. David as well. Find me on Facebook. I actually reshared something of Grant's today. And actually Grant was recently on my podcast, More Than Blockchain, David. And you should definitely listen to that. The most recent episode 54. I think it's super solid content. So I actually have not looked into Binance buys Voyager, but the second I saw that headline, it felt like everything that SBF did between August and September and October, where he bailed out BlockFi. He bailed, like they acquired them and they basically just kept them on stilts. And so that's what I'm seeing with this. Like the way that like Sam Bankman-Fried kept giving confidence to the market was he kept acquiring things. So you think, oh, he's got money. You don't think someone who's buying houses is broke, right? That's just not what goes through your head. You're like, oh yeah, if he's buying homes, he must not be broke, right? So when I see this buying Voyager, I'm like, what are you doing? I also just don't think Voyager is a very good product. I looked at it and I opened an account. I never put any money into it. Still get the emails because I like to read them because I think it's interesting to see their copy and their messaging. But to me, it's like we're going into a bear market, dude. You don't need to acquire them. I think it's this weird thing where it's like this control and power. And I saw it before the SBF. So I've been telling everyone to get all their money off Binance US and Binance in general. I'm fairly worried about what's going to happen. It's just, I'm feeling PTSD from all the things we've seen with SBF and FTX.
I thought Binance has a degree of autonomy. Binance US has a degree of autonomy, and their reserves were in a far different situation than Binance Global. Do you guys know anything about that? Have you heard anything like that?
That may be the case, but when bankruptcy comes, I don't trust anything. So
yeah, I had money in Voyager. They were offering the absolute best rates of return on staking. So I ran my experiment when I started all my experiments last year or the year before, wherever we're at now. And they were solid. And when it started to get shaky, I started withdrawing my ADA. I got all of my Cardano out because I was getting a stupid return on Cardano, like 9% a year. It was crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I pulled my Cardano out, and my USDC is still stuck there, and my Voyager tokens themselves are there. Now, I did notice the reason this headline is here is I noticed that Voyager popped 30% yesterday. And I was like, what? But Luna did the same thing when they tried to revive or resurrect that chain when they floated to new Terra, and then they spun off Terra Classic. But I just looked, and it's not that much better off itself. But this is an interesting take. You think this is a posturing to put confidence in the marketplace?
That's what it seems like, because I don't think that Binance US needs Voyager. Binance US is already a really good product. It's worth a lot of money. I don't know why you would need Voyager. Like I don't see how that would help them gain that many more people, when the story in my head is all the people from Voyager are then going to have to go to Binance and Coinbase. And they're likely going to choose in the US. They're likely going to choose Binance because the fees are better. That's why people choose Binance. Yeah, the UX is better on Coinbase, but the fees are so much cheaper. So, it's why a lot of people start with Coinbase, myself included. But then when I realized Binance, the UX wasn't as like sexy, and it didn't make me feel like I was on Uber or any one of the billion-dollar apps we're used to. But once you get used to the fact that the UX is just a little bit more utilitarian, I don't know. There doesn't seem like I don't get what they gain from it other than looking like they're not in trouble. And since there's been so many rumors about them being in trouble, I get really worried. And I am actively taking all of my funds off Binance US. It's taken me a while because some of the withdrawals from USD is you have a limit per day, but like it's ridiculous. So anyways, I'm skeptical, and I hope, and I'm normally a fairly overly optimistic person, as my friends say, like, oh, that's not going to happen. But this is one where I'm like, oh, I've seen this play out before. This makes me feel uncomfortable. So
I didn't think about that, but now that you say that, there's some logic there, because I assume everyone's just doing the best they can to get by on the planet, right? And when a company files bankruptcy, someone is unless there's a sell off of all of the assets, someone's going to swoop in and buy stuff for pennies on the dollar and hope to extract some extractive value of some kind, whether it's a user base or whether it can't be the app. I mean, the Voyager app has a good look, but not a good UX. And I've been do you have an account there, Jay?
No, but I think you're right when you said it might be the user base, because Voyager is supposed to have 3.5 million users. Binance has 30 million users. So that's 10% of their user base potentially. And I'm reading this article from Forbes, and they hey, what's up, Leaf? Reading this article from Forbes, and basically they've been saying that what Binance is really doing is that there's an initial transfer of $20 million. And that $20 million just says that we intend to purchase your assets. And basically what Binance is trying to do is control the user base, so that when all of the debt collection proceedings are done, they then have control over these accounts, and they can convince those account holders to either remain on Voyager or come to Binance and forego going to Coinbase. So like you were saying, Jarrett.
And Jarrett, you're right. From now that I'm thinking about, like, okay, these companies say $1 billion. And the way these agreements work is they do earnest money, like Jay is referring to. So what's 10, what's $20 million? Well, it's a fraction of the billion we're promising. There's a due diligence period, and then we could deny the deal, and we paid $20 million for positive market sentiment. That's not a bad investment if what you're saying is right, Jarrett. And then if we do our due diligence and it's a good deal because we are getting stuff pennies on the dollar, and they have that many assets under value, chances are after they do, proof of reserves or a little proof of lack of reserves, maybe the deal comes in sub-billion, then maybe we walk the deal out and we pay that out over a decade. And it's like, who cares? So maybe you're right. Like in terms of a squirrely leadership looking for confidence building in the public, maybe it is that sort of play. I could definitely see it have that effect. It had that effect on me.
Yeah, I mean, CZ has been playing 4D chess when everyone has just been playing checkers. And what he did to Sam Bankman-Fried, there should be an absolute Amazon documentary on that. And just
you and Kevin O'Leary. You and Kevin O'Leary.
No. So here's the thing. I'm not on the Kevin O'Leary train saying it was just CZ. What Sam Bankman-Fried did was bad. But the second CZ realized what had happened, that he had basically created all these FTT tokens out of nowhere to cover his Alameda. The second he realized what the soup was rotten, he wasted no time in turning the sword, and he could have easily
so many metaphors in a single sentence.
Yeah, if you can keep up with that, good luck. But he could have easily said, Sam, let's get on a Skype, just you and me, no one else. We need to have an hour-long talk. I want to talk you through how I think this is going to go for you. I'm here to support you. You're another leader in this space. Not, I'm going to take to Twitter and basically tank your company because I'm going to spread fear and I'm the Goliath in the room. You're David. Everyone likes you, but I'm still Goliath. So so the one thing I would look at is looking at BNB and if that quantity is going to be inflated at all, because that's how Sam did it. He started creating all these FTT tokens out of nowhere because maybe he just creates this BNB and pays him $1 billion, right? But anyways, Tristan says, or the third-party data sale, maybe Binance's bailout to keep them above water until the markets picks back up. Yeah, it could be that. I mean, or the third-party sale may also keep Voyager out of huge issues because they still have to pay back their clients. I think when something goes bankrupt, and if you're Voyager, you're just like, okay, we don't want to make any more money. We just want to pay everyone back and stay out of legal and financial troubles. Can we do that and walk away with zero and have a huge lesson learned, which is worth more than all of this? Great. Who can we do that? CZ, you want to help us do that? You could take all of our clients. We just want you to help them get their funds back on. That's basically what can you keep us at zero? We can walk away. No financial, no legal problems. Great. Let's talk about what that looks like. Anyone would take that once they're on the other side of the court sword. So I don't know. But the Mazars stops. Can we talk about that? Because I think that plays into this,
Yeah, and I've got additional notes. Well, how do you think it plays into it? And just let me give everyone the 100,000-foot view who's watching and might not know. So FTX is obviously the hot storyline. In the shadow of all of this, its auditing company, Mazars or however it's pronounced, it's a French company. So you pronounce it. They dropped not only FTX, but they dropped all mention of crypto auditing from their website. And the follow-up headlines followed suit. Now, I have some nuanced details, but before I get into that, Jarrett, how do these talk to each other? How do they how do they affect one another?
The Binance and Voyager in this? Yeah, so I thought it was really interesting, the whole basically, so anyone who's not, maybe into what's going on with crypto and you're listening to this, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX go underwater. There was a lot of fraud, basically like a Ponzi scheme, moving money around, taking 8 to 10 billion or $10 billion of clients' money and basically just using it for his own slush bucket. So then after that happens, all the other a slush bucket.
That was my nickname in high school.
Nice. I was gonna say that's for another story. So then what happens is the rest of the players come out and they're like, Brian Armstrong's like, all of our stuff is one-to-one backed. Like we're never, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, we're never going to, leave people out to dry. We're always going to cover our clients. CZ said the same thing. They all started to show screenshots of whatever. And then they all basically said, we're going to hire third-party auditors to come in and look at our stuff. So CZ, I'm pretty sure, gets Mazars to come by and do a third-party audit. That goes, it happens. And then shortly after, Mazars says, we don't want anything to do with you. We're walking away. So as soon as the third-party auditors have come in to make sure that Binance is okay, they've just as soon left. And that looks really, really bad. You know, if I'm sitting there and like, Grant, come over, you're the third-party auditor. Come look at my books and tell the world I'm not a fraud. You come over, you look at my books, and you're like, yeah, I don't want to take on this client. That's just not the 100,000 view, as you say, the 30,000 view does not look good. And I actually think Binance is going to come out pretty good because they do have to give quarterly reports because they are a publicly traded company. They have to like share that with the shareholders. What's up?
Binance US is publicly traded?
No, Coinbase is.
Coinbase, got it.
Coinbase is. Binance US is not. So anyways, yes, Coinbase stock fell from 40 to an all-time low of $35, and it IPO'd at 350 maybe.
I got the numbers right here.
Yeah, it was plus 300. I think it was at 350. And then everyone who had Coinbase stock from the beginning sold, obviously. It went down to like 180, 200. It was sitting around there. People were buying in. And then it really plummeted over the last 6 to 7 months. So
IPO at 342, peaked at 343.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So it went up $1, around 350. I said 350, but it went for 342, 343. Everyone sold. They got out, all the OGs. They all became millionaires. Probably just waited. A lot of them were dumping it back in Bitcoin. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I think it's weird. Jay, do you want to weigh in on your thoughts on Mazars stopping? I mean, I just don't think it's good.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good, not just for those companies, but for the industry. I think what you're seeing happening is there are a lot of traditional financial companies like accounting and auditing firms that are just saying no to crypto, either because there's too much regulation or the regulation is still, undefined, and they're not trying to hang their company out to dry for some random crypto company that won't necessarily be around years from now. Like the example I use is, I can't even remember the name of the company now, but it was one of the biggest accounting firms in the world. And just so happened that their customer was Enron. When Enron crashed, so did they, because like the reputation follows, right? And so you don't want to be the accounting firm who's been handling, the FTX disaster, or mishandling the FTX disaster.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I believe markets, 80-20 rule, I believe markets are 80% emotion. And there are technicals, and there are the 20% of the market that gets 80% of the results, but there's just a huge amount of emotion. And when you see these signals, everyone's looking for signs of confidence and certainty, or signs of not being the last one holding the bag, and that's what creates runs on banks. Armanino is another auditing company I looked up, so I did a little bit of research on this. Armanino was also an FTX auditor. They dropped FTX, but they kept crypto auditing services on their website. Mazars got rid of crypto auditing services. So my needle swung back a little bit and said, okay, well, this company was making some sort of ethics decision when it came to FTX, but not a broad scale sweeping policy change for the entire crypto industry. And when I started looking up a lot of third-party proof of reserve sort of companies, a lot of them are still in play. And if you peruse CoinMarketCap, not all, but enough to be represented, there'll be a link that'll say audit. And you can click to see if they've done a third-party proof of reserves audit. But here's my question. How much do you trust in the crypto space, where money can move from one wallet to the next, and we believe there's total transparency, which I know there's transparency, but I don't know if there's total understanding. Meaning, like, we can see through all transactions, but in seeing those transactions, do we know what is occurring with those transactions? Can we tell what's happening? Do you trust the accuracy of these audits, or do you think they're just pay to play and buying an audit?
Yeah, auditors are definitely pay to play. Having worked for a stock exchange, and the Ministry of Finance and a central bank like auditing. That's exactly what it is. It's pay to play. The auditors, they don't like work for the regulators or anything like that. All they're trying to do is ensure that the actions that you've taken, you can present them to the regulators and not have to pay a fine or go to jail. That's their whole job.
Interesting. Is it against the ethos of crypto to have an audit?
It seems like it is, right? Because if it's on chain, it's all available. Like you shouldn't have to audit anything if it's all on chain. You can like have like kind of like a running audit. It's always up to date. You shouldn't have to like historically check it and make sure that it's correct.
Yeah, Jarrett? I think what Jay is pointing to, which is what a lot of people in the industry are pointing to, which is like maybe centralized exchanges aren't a good thing, because while we should be able to see all this on chain, Uniswap, this didn't happen on Uniswap. This didn't happen on SushiSwap. No. When everything's on chain, no funny business happens.
Yeah.
But when customers don't own their own keys and they're basically all just kind of like, if you think about a centralized exchange like this, it's like an entire massive gymnasium or huge indoor space.
Yeah.
And in there you go and you buy crypto and then you put it in your little lockbox and you have a key. But there's a bigger key that the exchange owns. And at any time they can just go open that and take your money.
And all the doors
it's basically
open,
basically you have access and the exchange has access, which is another way of saying you actually don't have full access, So if you think of it that way, that's not the point of crypto. It's not for me to go put something in a lockbox that this other entity can go get money out of. I have my own lockbox. No one else has the keys. And if I want to send Grant money, then I send him money. Yeah. I think this is pointing to a bigger thing where I just think in the future, like Coinbase, for example, I know there's like, I don't know, thousands of employees, and I know a couple people that work there, and I wish them well for as long as they can work there. But I do think the longer, in 10 years, Coinbase will have like, I don't know, 200 people. It will just be all automated, and they'll just be, trying to get more people onto the platform. But on some level, they're going to just be more custodial. And they're going to do a lot more custody. I think custody is going to be the thing that's going to be, and Coinbase already does this. Like when Michael Saylor bought all of his Bitcoin for MicroStrategy, he used Coinbase's enterprise, on-ramps. And then he also does cold storage through Coinbase. So
storage.
I think he does cold storage with Coinbase. Yeah. Or they have some enterprise multi-sig storage thing for Bitcoin when you obviously have a crap ton of Bitcoin and you can, pay the custodial fees or whatever it is. So I just think long time
those fees, right?
Yeah, because honestly, like centralized exchanges are really no different than banks. All you're describing with these paying off of auditors is the same thing we saw in 2008 when, Bears, the Lehman Brothers were just paying off Moody's so they could get a good thing. So everyone was AAA rated.
Exactly. 100%.
And it just recycles. It's just the whole thing. Like this is just PTSD for anybody.
That's a very good point.
Like you shouldn't have to audit the truth. And the truth should just be the blockchain.
So it seems like it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors at the moment to the simple minded.
Yo, get out of here. What is Tristan talking about?
I love he's just sitting there. He's listening to us. He's probably at his day job on like an actual Zoom call, but he's listening to us. He's just bobbing his head on like his work call. He's just trolling. He says, which exchange will be endorsed by the WEF for the 2030 agenda, though?
Oh,
which one do you guys think it is?
It was going to be FTX, but
I think it was going to be FTX. And so from that regard, like maybe the revolution took FTX down. Maybe like we were preserving our interests from the 2030 agenda. I'm going to say something completely counter. I don't believe the 2030 agenda is bad.
Here we go.
Here we go. Wait, did he already respond? Tristan. Oh,
that's the real alpha. Okay, Grant, go ahead.
He's not responding.
And now we got to add extra time onto this because you just.
I won't go into it. We'll save it for another call.
I don't 100% remember what was the 2030 agenda thing.
The World Economic Forum published its goals for 2030. It's kind of like how the World Bank has its goals, and then the Paris Accords have its goals for so many years out. The World Economic Forum has its own goals. And if you actually look at those goals and read it, and I've read the document, when you read not the conspiracy documents, the published documents, which is all we actually have access to, I don't disagree with the desired outcomes. I think when this spins into its own conspiracy, which we know, Jay loves a good conspiracy. And Grant loves to know them and then to poo on them.
Did you see that? You see
yeah.
He's like, yeah. He's just like putting some salt on it. He's like, I'll eat that easy.
Yeah, man. It's the tactics that a lot of the antagonists of the 2030 agenda do not like, the implications of the tactics underlying the desired outcomes for the 2030 agenda. And it's so far out. And this is the other thing about conspiracies. They always look for something just out of reach to prove or disprove. And 2030 is far enough away, and the leaders of these things are just enough out of reach that they are easy pincushions for all that's bad in the world. I myself do not ascribe to many conspiracy theories at all. But enough people do, for and against the 2030 agenda, that this question is actually a real question. Because if the market is 80% emotion, what people think about things like this is 100% emotion. So let's entertain the question. What is the replacement for FTX, which is the system Kool-Aid drinking centralized exchange that will look like it's for the people, and it looks like it's rebelling against the man, but behind closed doors, it's working with the man? Which centralized exchange is embodying that? Gemini?
Oh, God.
Crypto.com.
Crypto.com could be the one. And I don't have any money on Crypto.com.
Me neither.
I never had any money on FTX, never had any money on Voyager. I don't know. Shiny objects, I'm just really trying to stay away from them now moving forward with crypto. But maybe Crypto.com, because it's so ubiquitous. And if that goes down, the wholesaling of that domain will be something to really, really see, because the domain is the coolest part of that company.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Coinbase. I think Coinbase has played really well with regulators. And I already think Coinbase is already seen by many as kind of like more of Anakin after he turns into Darth Vader, as opposed to like Anakin the Rebel. So I don't know. But here's the other thing. In this down market, there's going to be a couple billionaires that are going to go and buy a bunch of Bitcoin. And when it 10Xs, they're going to go from 1 billion to 10 billion or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden they're going to be a real player by 2025. Maybe they start an exchange. I think we may not even have the player out on the floor right now who's going to do it. 2030 is a long way away.
It is.
And there could be someone whose entire thing is, I'm just going to cozy up to the World Economic Forum. I'm going to cozy up to everything they're trying to do and play by their rules and make my money that way. So
I tend to agree. I think the way these people play chess is not so master planned. I believe that they set some desired outcomes and then they create chaos in different pockets. And as they create chaos, something rises to the top. For example, FTX, kind of from a Darwinian perspective, could not be it because it couldn't weather the storm. So they'll watch for the next one. Coinbase is its position in the market is almost so fixed that it's not manipulatable if one were to subscribe to real conspiracies. So it's almost not going to be the obvious one. In fact, I think one will rise and will be like, we're the un-FTX. We're for the people. But it's board and the way it's governed and its functions, and maybe even parts of the blockchain will have backdoors, and it will actually be tied into the system. And you could probably make a good case for some ISO cryptos because they have to play with the Swift banking system. So you could make an argument that one of them, and I think of all of them, the obvious one would be Ripple. They've been fighting the man. They've been fighting the SEC, and they're going to come out on top. But behind closed doors, they're completely integrated. But they're not a platform. They're not a platform.
Darlinghouse plays super well with the regulators, and he's always said that he would. He's not going to push against it. He sees that being the rebel in crypto is not going to get you very far if you're looking for mass adoption, and I think he's 100% right. I want to touch upon one more thing as we wrap
Please.
up is the MetaMask PayPal. And I kind of looked into this, and before we even talk about MetaMask PayPal, MetaMask had allowed people to buy crypto through MetaMask using their credit card a while back, like even a month ago.
Yep.
And whether it's with a credit card or whether it's with PayPal, both on ramps that are basically, if you're, both on ramps that have KYC and AML done, I think they're antithetical to what MetaMask is all about. The whole idea is that you're masked. Your identity is masked and no one knows who you are. Therefore, they just see your wallet address. And so then attaching a credit card to it or a PayPal, it seems like, yeah, let me go to this swingers party and everyone has masks off and I just take mine off. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't really understand where they're going to get. And I think a lot of people are going to leave MetaMask because of this. And they're going to go into other wallets that don't have these on-ramps and aren't asking for KYC AML. Because the second I attach my PayPal, which has me and my social security number tied to it, essentially, to that MetaMask, I'm on the grid.
Well, let me ask this question. I don't know if that points to an understanding, and not that I'm claiming to understand the actual security mechanisms of MetaMask. For example, if I gave Jay my public address and he deposited $100 of Ethereum into my MetaMask,
sure,
would they assume that I owned the originating account that Jay sent me money, or would they assume it was just a transaction? PayPal, like, there could be a protocol where this is just another deposit. And though they can say for certain, Grant Nadu deposited, because of his PayPal, Grant Nadu deposited money to this Ethereum account, and in all probability it is Grant, but in all prosecutability, can I say that for certain? And
this is a super good point. This is a super good point that when the government starts looking at this, is that Grant's account or is that someone else's account that Grant is sending him $100 to? And I want to build on that. And I looked at the Visa and what Visa and Ethereum is trying to do. They're trying to set it up so that way you could have automatic payments on Ethereum. Because right now you can't really set that up in the smart contracts. That just, as far as from this article and as far as everything I understood, but having something with an automatic payment month on month is huge for content creators. If you could start to get paid in Ethereum monthly, $100 of Ethereum in 1 month, it's 0.01, then it's 0.02, then it's 0.005 because of the volatility. That's huge though. And it's a small little thing that happened. It's a grain of sand in the entire Sahara Desert that is crypto. But these things are getting really interesting. And once again, this also goes back to if you are using that smart contract through a MetaMask, for example, and you want to connect your Visa and you want to do that, it gets really interesting. But I love your point there, because then it's like, okay, prosecutably this, and then there's this, and they're two different things. So, but anyways, someone who's used MetaMask and liked that, and enjoys that when the money is sent there, it's kind of off the grid. Now I know someone's going to say, oh, they can look at your, they're totally not wrong. But they have to kind of do a little bit more digging than just saying, oh, it's tied to this credit card, which is owned by either this EIN because it's a business or this social security number because it's an individual. So I just think it's like, it's to be losing the reason why I think MetaMask existed.
At least, and again, if we're talking about economics and moolah, we're talking, and markets, we're talking about emotion, and whether or not I'm even making a valid point that you keep using the word tied to your account. We have to ask, technically, is it tied, or is it just a smooth on processing of a payment? Like I'm looking right now, I could deposit directly from ETH. I could deposit from Wire, like a single wire, MoonPay, Transact, and Coinbase Pay. Are these tied, meaning they stay connected, like, these are permanently connected? Or is it a one-off transaction? And like Jay's transaction to me is a one-off transaction. And if you have a regular payment like you're talking about, that could be an argument, but it's circumstantial evidence if you wanted to be if you were being prosecuted for something. So but all of that aside, technologically, you're right. Psychologically, the average user is thinking, I'm a mystery to the universe because I'm in MetaMask and I'm at what was that movie with Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise, where they were like, it was some sex movie and they wore masks, and there was like, it was some weird film where no one knew who other people were. I'll think of the name of it. It was just
Isn't
awkward.
that the one where he like hurts his face or something?
Oh, I don't know about that one. I don't know.
Isn't it Vanilla Sky?
Like a high society type of party type of deal.
It was this high society party. No, I like Vanilla Sky, but that was different. But you're right. It was this weird like sensual film when they were together still. Even they did this film, and it's like, okay, the masquerade ball. No one knows who I am. But you're absolutely right. Psychologically, it's like, wait, I could be at risk here, and we've known that MetaMask has been fraught with technical risks for so long. And what'd you say? Eyes wide shut. Yeah, that's
Eyes wide shut. That sounds like the slogan for MetaMask right now. So that makes sense.
There's a meme. There's a meme in that somewhere for sure. Addison just says, interesting. Addison, stupid question. Are you in Houston? Because if you're not in Houston, I'd really like to know where in the world you are. Just curious. But yes,
last name is Houston for everyone. That's why Grant's so
just curious. I'm just curious.
Grant, you want to do some shout outs, or you want something?
Super shout out to you guys. And super shout out to Victor, who's just like ubiquitous and ever present. I'm starting to believe Victor is God, because Victor is always omnipresent. I feel like I could go live in the shower, and I think Victor would pop in and be like, listen, Shido today, let me tell you, check.
I was going to say, if Victor's God, then Shido is God's currency.
Yeah. And to everyone out there who's still keeping their toes in the water in crypto, I know it's ugly. I know it's scary. Not all of us are builders. Not all of us have any more money to invest. But for those who in the middle of all of that are still staying involved, even if it's shit posting, you're still involved because Addison says eyes wide shut. Oh, and he went to college there in Houston. Okay, I'm just being a bitch. But yes, thank you for that. So shout out to everyone who is staying involved in crypto, because there is gold in them, our hills, and we just have to be patient enough as we extract it. So that's my shout out. Jay, what do you got?
I had a good one. I just forgot it. Oh my gosh.
No. Shout out to your HR.
No,
we won't open that. We won't open that up.
This is great.
Oh man, no, I've completely forgotten it.
That's okay.
Oh, I think I was
shout
gonna
out Jay's memory.
Yeah, my memory's failing today. Maybe just shout out to everybody who's celebrating the holidays this year. Not everybody does it, but if you're celebrating, shout out to you.
And shout out to the 2030 agenda. Jarrett,
we have been looking for a sponsor, so maybe we'll have the World Economic Forum sponsor.
Tristan would hunt us down, I think.
I think we'd hunt ourselves down. No, I want to shout out two things. I want to shout out Leo Messi for finally lifting the cup that
nice.
4 times before that. And I also want to shout out everyone, and like Jay said, for the holidays, because we have I think Hanukkah is finishing up this week. I'm not sure when Kwanzaa falls this year on this calendar, because this year is kind of funky. And then we also have Christmas this weekend. So we will not be on this Saturday. It's Christmas Eve. We will see everyone next Tuesday. And then we'll do one show next Tuesday, and then we won't see everyone to the following Tuesday, and that will be in a new year in 2023. So shout out for anyone who just understood what I said in the scheduling. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Not Crypto Bros. And we will see everyone next Tuesday. Have a good holiday.
For our last show of the year.
Yeah, for our last show of the year.
Last show of our first year. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Thanks.